Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So real quick, we're going to do a video called Circling Back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an update for you guys on all the different systems that you've been watching me set up for the last few months, listening to me talk about them. I'm going to show you how they're doing, and that way you can see whether or not this is worth your time and worth your energy. So stay tuned for the entire video. Thank you for rowing in our boat and letting us row in yours. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Starkey Farmstead, we did not get food into the ground until the very end of March of 2023. So I transplanted basil, tomato, marigold. So let's do a real quick update on how they're all doing. The tomatoes are thriving in our no-till heavy mulch, totally organic and regenerative system. I do see some disease issues with the basil on the bottom leaves. You can see it right there. Some browning, a little bit more yellow, guys, than how I normally expect my basil to be, but that's okay. They're growing tall. Their stems are strong. What I'm going to do is simply just remove the bottom leaves, and this may simply be caused from when it rains and you get a little backsplash. That may just be that. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, I am using the different homemade foliar sprays that we make here on the farm once a week. Now, what they are, I am using a comfrey tea mixed with a rabbit urine and spraying everything. And I've got some really pretty flowers coming up. So these tomatoes have only been in the ground right at 4.5 weeks. And they are doing amazing. When I put them in, they could not have been 4 inches tall. Stems were very thin, leaves were very small, and they were a bit on the yellow side. But the companion planting we're doing this year, I'm gonna be honest, we have not seen any pest whatsoever on any of these plants. And that makes me so excited. Like, no problems at all, none. No pest, no disease. So I'm excited about that. Moving on, circling back. I talked to you guys the other day about the issue that I had my hay brought in a little late, and what I was going to be facing trying to get all this heavy mulched, because I already had the irrigation down, already had plants in the ground. But what I did was simply take the irrigation and I pulled it back and I filled this whole area in with hay. Then I laid the irrigation back over it. So this area was done yesterday. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? This area will be done today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So basically, what I'm finding is I don't have any grass breakthrough, except in 1 or 2 very small patches. What you're seeing right now is not grass. What you're seeing is small growing, basically we'd all call them weeds, right? And it's because my soil is lacking in something. So we have a lot of different mulches out here, but none of them are going to be thick enough to keep this constant breakthrough of smaller weeds from coming up with the way that Louisiana's humidity and heat and dampness is during our summer. All of this will be broken down extremely fast. So what I'm going to do is continue out with that heavy mulch of hay. And it is trash hay. What I mean by that is this would have been cow hay. It's never been sprayed with any pesticides or herbicides, guys. I got it locally sourced, delivered to my property. So that is super important when you're doing your garden and you're looking for a heavy mulch to help keep out the weeds. Trash hay is one of the best. And a lot of people always ask me, well, are you getting any kind of like weeds the cows would have eaten? Are you getting weed seed from the hay? That kind of stuff. The answer is no. I used a trash hay last year. Everything that's breaking through this year was on my property prior to. I've not gotten any new type of weeds because I'm using this hay. But look how thick it is. That's super important that you notice how thick I laid that hay. Okay, it's not thin like these wood chips out here. All right, I mean, it's like seriously very, very heavy. The heavier you lay your mulch, the longer it's gonna last and the more it's gonna suppress the weeds underneath it. So that's just a tip for you guys. Moving on, let's talk about the tiny pollinator and rabbit garden that you guys saw me plant directly on top of an area that we had burnt wood on. Let's see if that's producing and how well it's doing. So this little garden seems to really be coming along nicely. The turnips are growing beautifully except for right here. And I noticed the other day that in this area there was less wood ash, and this ground has never had anything added to it. When I burnt the wood that was sitting here, I came back and added leaves and hay that was soaked in rabbit urine and some rabbit manure, but I didn't do it very thickly. So I think what we have going on here is just a serious nutrient deficiency in the soil. And that's okay, because the more roots you get into the ground, the healthier your soil will become. So yesterday when I came through here, I did spray this area very well with the comfrey tea and the rabbit urine, because you can also see where the pests are attacking, or the weaker plants that are discolored, right? Like you can see where those are being attacked. But as you make your way around, same type of plant now, seeded exactly at the same time, but look at the difference in growth on this side versus this side. Look at how that side's being attacked by pests, and there is no pest attack in that area or this. And guys, the reason is, and I tell y'all this all the time, pests don't want healthy plants. In fact, a healthy plant has a super high sugar level, and that'll actually kill pests. So they avoid healthy plants. Well, how do you get a healthy plant? Healthy soil. So pest pressure is normal, especially in zones like 9A, 9B, 10A, 10B, where we don't get a really good winter and we're very humid. All right, we get a lot of pests down here in the south. But my point for you is this: doesn't matter where you are located, if you will focus on soil health rather than pest deterring, what you'll find is you get less and less pest attack year after year that destroy an entire crop, because your plants are healthy. And healthy plants will deter pests on their own, okay? So let's look at these pumpkins that we companion planted with marigolds, hibiscus, and borage, and see how they are doing. Now the pumpkins are doing amazing. I noticed that transplanting the hibiscus has basically left me with a pretty small, pretty sickly looking plant. Now, whether or not that's gonna bounce back, I'm not sure, guys. I've never planted hibiscus before, and I'm realizing that I probably should have direct seeded it rather than try to transplant. But like I tell y'all, living is learning. So here is the borage. It's coming up quite nicely. And I know it can be kind of hard to determine what you're looking at in my garden right now with this small breakthrough of weeds, which is why this week I will finish covering everything. But there's another borage. Isn't that pretty? And here's our marigold and our pumpkins, but they're doing amazing. Now, I don't trellis pumpkin, zucchini, squash, watermelon, cantaloupes in our garden. The main reason is I don't need to. This heavy mulch system that we have going on here at Starkey Farmstead keeps the fruits and vegetables from ever really touching the ground. They're sitting up on a 2 or 3 inch bed of heavy mulch. So no matter how much it rains, no matter how bad the weather gets, they're simply not going to rot on the ground. So that's a tip for you. If you worry about allowing your vining plants to stay on the ground because in the past it rotted, it's because you had water standing there and the soil was too moist. So put a heavy mulch underneath them and they should be okay. Let you guys know, giving Big Bertha here a larger nest box did end up in a successful delivery. Guys, she really struggled. Her first 2 deliveries, her babies were basically crushed. And I couldn't figure out, was she stomping them? Was she simply a bad mother? What was going on? And then we realized she could not fit in a standardized nest box. So my husband built her this supersized nest box, and she is the best mother. I almost culled this rabbit because, you know, we got a 3 rule strike here. You do that 3 times, you're gone. Well, come to find out, it was human error, not rabbit error. And we adjusted by giving her a 3-foot length cage and a 3-foot high cage, as well as a supersized nest box. And she has turned out to be a remarkable mom. Corn that we direct seeded is starting to come up, and I am so excited. And then the row after it is black oil sunflower seeds, then corn, and then corn, and it just keeps going. Corn. Now what you see green that's breaking through here is not a weed. It is the yellow mustard and the white New Zealand clover, because I needed to fumigate the soil. I had a case of Fusarium wilt that was super bad last year in this front area. So the yellow mustard you see coming up better on this end than that end, and I'll tell you why. I don't have enough water hose and my sprinkler doesn't make it the last 6 hoses down there. So time to invest, definitely time to invest. Now in more water hose, you know, go figure, right? Always something to spend your money on. I did want to show you guys how amazing the fig trees are coming. So we did come through, cut off everything that the freeze killed, and look at the size of that. This tree would have been huge this year. But because we heavy mulch, we do spray them with the rabbit urine and the comfrey. We also put a bunch of compost on top of the mulch, and we did our deep root watering systems. So the 3 fig trees are coming along beautifully. You that watch us and know that we raw feed our dogs, here is what their poop looks like once the sun hits it after about 2 days. It basically turns white, becomes like powder, and it'll just crush back into the soil. So it's not like a big pile of poop that's nasty that sits in your yard until you pick it up and the flies come to it. Notice there are no flies on this. And I really believe it's because there was very little waste product that the dog had to eliminate. So their poops are smaller, they're easier to clean up, they have less odor, and they don't attract as many flies. So here is the no-till thornless blackberry bush and the blueberry bush, and again, they're doing amazing in a deep mulch system. I'm not having to water these guys at all. In fact, I've not watered by hand any of my fruiting trees so far this year. Every time it rains, this heavy mulch grabs onto it, keeps the soil moist for days and days afterwards. And if we go into a drought here in Southeast Louisiana, that's what this is for. I will water into the pipe, not onto the plants, forcing the roots to go deeper into the soil where there will usually be some form of water even in a drought. So the chickens are still finishing up the compost that I'll be using as fertilizer throughout the year, and it's almost time for me to reset this in here for them. But guys, I want to point out a couple of things. Yes, I do get gnats. Yes, I do get flies, but they're not swarming my birds. Look at them. All right, they're not swarming the ladies, okay? They're not swarming the boys. And I honestly believe, because when I flip the compost, any eggs that has been laid in that compost, once it hatches out, it rolls to the top and they can find it and they will eat it. So by composting in your coop, you're gonna push your pest pressure back down for your birds. And the other thing I would suggest is don't overload the amount of birds you have in one space. They don't stay in here all the time, but they do stay in here about 5 days a week during spring, summer, and fall, because if I let them out, they're gonna attack my garden, right? They're just going to do that. So what we have learned to do is rotational graze them into their run and then back into their coop. Last but not least, our chicken garden. How did it do? How long did it last? Guys, it did not last very long at all. But I will tell you this, if you notice, we have things like comfrey, and the ladies just pick a piece off when they want it. We are constantly having new growth because I'm reseeding this all the time. All right, so They come out here and they hit it with everything they've got when I let them out of their composting area and into their run. Now I've got a few things in here that I'm protecting so that they can get some size to them, because I've noticed with the chickens, it's not always that they're eating it all, it's that they're hitting it with their feet. All right, now as they're digging and as they're composting all these leaves and stuff, they're basically pulling it out by the root. So let your plants get a little bigger before your ladies back in here. Every day I wet this area. Every week I reseed it with different plants. And then when they're let out every 5 days, they're out here the whole day eating and digging and pulling up the worms, and I put them back up. A lot of times they miss the smaller seeded areas with the small seeds and the small sprouts, and it gives that plant a little bit of time to grow before the ladies hit it again. So that's just a suggestion. If you're gonna grow them a garden, it's not gonna last long. So another thing we're fixing to do here at Starkey Farmstead is put a fence up right here, and then I will seed that area and I will seed this area, and I will rotate them from the compost into pen 1. The next day they will go into pen 2, and then I'll run them back into the coop. That will give them 1 extra day a week to be in their garden area, and it will give all this area a little bit more time to rest in between them coming out here. Remember, regenerative agriculture, you can do it on a super small scale. You just need to think through your processes. So, I mean, you may have a better process, and if you do, I would love for you to share it. We thank you guys for watching. It means a lot to us to be able to share what we have learned, and we'd love to hear what other people have learned. We all don't have the same soil. We all don't have the same environment, the same setup, the same amount of land, any of that. But we can all learn from each other. So this is how our raised bed is going. Our carrots are sprouting. Our garlic is sprouting. Our native plants are sprouting. We have oats in here. We have fennel in here. We have lots of clover. We do have some invasive weed species right here that can be poisonous, so I'm gonna have to pull those out. They're super prickly. Our asparagus, 2nd year, and it is doing amazing. I will be able to harvest this area next year. We have collards. We have some marigolds. Basically an area that I put my perennials in, but I want this to be a pollinator habitat and an area that all the plants are just kind of growing together for healthy soil. Again, and for all the plants that are over here, notice that you're not seeing any pest attacks. But I also keep a little pollinator water on the end. Our worm tea is doing so well. And I know on some of the other sites where people, you know, they make their own worm tea and stuff, they were like, oh, that's worm extract, and you know, you need an aerator and all this other stuff. Guys, things do not have to be so difficult that you can't follow the process. Something I have learned as an educator, because I do have a master's degree in education, certified in special ed, regular ed, English as a second language, early childhood. I can tell you right now, if someone cannot explain it to you in layman's terms, in its most simplest explanation, then they themselves are having a bit of a trouble understanding what they're even talking about. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Yes, you can put an aerator to it. Yes, you can add all these fancy bacterias and yeast. And in my honest to God opinion, the end product is probably going to be very similar to what I'm making in that bucket right there, stirring it by hand without an aerator. Now, that really gets under some people's skin because they really want you to think that they have this amazing recipe and it can only be done like this for this best product in the world. Guys, God is a very simple God, all right? The Bible isn't that difficult. Some of the language, in fact, that we have a gap of knowledge, we weren't taught it as children, can make it very difficult at times, but the message of the Bible is very simple. Jesus died for you on the cross, for every human being that has ever lived or that will ever live. There's nothing you can't be forgiven for. He is faithful. That is a message of the Bible. God loves you so much. He created the earth to be more simple than people want it to be. It makes people feel really good about themselves when they can use these very large words and they can talk over your head. And then when you do it different, or you actually do it like them, but you do it so much more simple and get the same process, it offends something in them, because it actually makes them feel less of a person, because all the time and effort they put into something, the Holy Spirit gave you a way to do it just like that. And that makes them upset. So you just keep doing it the way you're doing it. If it's not working, reach out to me. If it doesn't work for me, I'm definitely going to tell you about it, because I'm all about you seeing the truth of what we do here. Let's take a look at these worm beds. And then I have to get a manure order ready. We set these beds up the other day in our worm class. We set this side up. As you can see, there's a lot of moisture on top. This is why we don't have any leachate or leachate runoff from our beds, because the cardboard catches it and absorbs it and keeps the bedding from being so wet that the worms cannot thrive in it. Remember, if you watch any of our videos, take any of our classes, you never ever put dirt in your worm bins. But as you can see, our worms are thriving. They are loving this. Look at that. We have very happy worms. Very, very happy worms. Cardboard on the bottom, leaves, rabbit manure, shredded paper, a little bit of peat moss, a little bit of homemade food, couple of handfuls of worm castings to inoculate the bed, cardboard back on top. They're gonna turn this entire thing right here into, and this side still needs to be run, they're gonna turn it into this, all right? And remember what I said, there has never ever been any dirt added to these beds, all right? So I hope that helps you guys. I know it's a concept that kind of blows your mind, because when you look at it, you think, oh, that's dirt. It's not. Red wigglers are leaf litter dwellers, okay? Simply put, in the wild, in their native habitat, they would be found in the leaves. That's right. Never in the soil. So they don't eat soil and they don't bed in soil. So you never ever want to add soil to your beds, okay? They make something that looks very similar to soil, but it's not. It's poop. And if you let your bed get like the last bed I just showed you, you're gonna slow down the eggs from hatching. You're gonna slow down your worms from breeding. You're gonna slow down everything, because that bed is mainly poop with just some leaves in it now. And nothing likes to stand in its own poop. Nothing can thrive in its own waste products. So that's why it's called waste. So I've got to get that bed run this week. I've got to get it preset. So I hope this helps you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share our videos. We want everyone to know that this is a simple process. All these processes. If we can do it, you can do it. Bless you. Have a great day. May God multiply and prosper you. Thank you for watching Starkey Farms. Show you guys how it's going with Samson, who is right over there. He's in the bathroom in my leaves. Samson! Come, Samson! He just made 12 weeks, guys. 32 pounds. Oh, he's doing so good on his recall. Good boy. Good come, Samson. He's going to hit 140 pounds, guys. His big brother right there is at 85. And he is at 17. So Samson's going to be the biggest thing on the block. Wouldn't know it looking at him. Gentle puppy. But that is an Argentina Dogo, the newest addition to the family. And just so you guys know, Killer, the born cat, which Steven rescued. Someone had thrown her off in the woods and he rescued her. Did very well with her hysterectomy. She is on total bed rest until we have the stitches removed in a couple of days. So right now, you ready for this? She's watching the Disney Channel. Not a big Disney fan, but since they bought National Geographic, you gotta do what you gotta do. So she's watching National Geographic, The Big Cats. And she's in the middle of my king size bed, covered up with a blanket, driving me insane. You guys say a little prayer for all of our animals in recovery, and thank you again for watching.